season 2011-12 was one of the most incredible seasons in the history of Scottish football, with the death of one of our largest clubs. The 10 seasons that followed were an amazing 10 years in the history of Celtic Football Club, with 4 consecutive trebles, one of which was an invincible treble. And it all ended with a worldwide pandemic that resulted in a worldwide lockdown. This is the fans' story and the fans' recollection of those incredible seasons. You can listen to it every week if you're a paid subscriber to theceltigunderground.substack.com. We hope you enjoy.
Music in my head, crazy music playing in the morning light. Oh, ho, ho, it's magic, you know.
So we're here for the second season of the second 9 in a row. I'm joined again by Andrew, Stevenson, Anthony, Robert, and we're going to talk about the first season without our Rangers. There was obviously quite a bit going on in the background, but we're not going to talk about them. We're not going to talk about the Brecon Hedge or the fact that the Rangers wished Rangers good luck in their first ever game, which is all now forgotten. But the 2012 into season 2013 was actually a really memorable season for people dying, famous people dying. I mean, I'm not going to go through them all. Eric Sykes died, Sid Waddell, the darts commentator, Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon, Andy Williams, Clive Dunn, Richard Bryars, Larry Hagman, and there was a woman called Margaret Thatcher. Don't know if anyone's ever heard of her. She also died in the April of this season. Opening day of the season, Spectrum by Florence and the Machine was number 1 on the first day of the league season. Skyfall was the big film. So this year, actually, there was films that recognise Skyfall, The Dark Knight Rises, The Avengers, and The Hobbit. There was a Hobbit film. So that was the films. So we always start off with Europe and then into the league. So we'll do a wee bit of Europe first, because we had the European qualifiers for Champions League football. So who wants to kick us off? We had Helsinki home and away, and then Helsingborg home and away.
Well, there's a wee fun
Andrew.
fact. Fact on this. You know, that's the only Champions League qualifying campaign Celtic have ever contested in which they've won every one of the individual games within that qualifying campaign. They won all 4 games. They beat Helsinki home and away. They beat Rosenborg home and away. And they've never done that in any other since. So there you go. That's about all I could say about it. But it was like, you know, we're so used to just scraping through and just getting by. They won all 4 games. Home and away. And it doesn't matter if it's Helsinki, Rosenborg. We've seen them screwing up games like that.
Yeah,
before.
I mean, we weren't thumping them by 5 or 6, but they were all comfortable. Helsinki was the only one because they scored first at Celtic Park in the first game.
Yeah, and I think in the away game in Helsinki, it was still 2-1 on aggregate with about 25 minutes to go. So that was a bit nervous until Joe Ledley scored. Yeah, I mean, it was the Swedes, we took care of them. And I think it was a great performance. Lennon had started to put that team together the year before, and they looked pretty comfortable. And I think it's always a bit tricky, the games in August, because, you know, we're not really into our domestic season. We're playing Scandinavian teams who are in season. So these are the sorts of games that before and since we've lost to these sort of teams.
And obviously, something we wouldn't do these days is we would leave it right to the very last day before signing anyone in a transfer window.
The one game that sticks in my mind, Harry, is the Helsingborg away game, which was the first leg. Now, I think Common scored fairly early on, and I have to say, my recollection is we get pounded for the rest of the game. And I remember being really nervous that they were going to equalise or even go in front. And Big Samaras broke away very, very late in the game with one of these big rangy runs down the left wing that he was famous for. And he scored. And you knew at that point, with greatest respect to Helsingborg, that the game's done, because they're not going to come to Parkhead and 3-0. So that was really good, because that took a bit of pressure off for the second leg. It made it a more comfortable watch from the fans' point of view. But the other thing, just I think we would all agree on is with Rangers out the league, and the league, with all due respect, being fairly academic to win it, I think Lennon was able to focus in Europe, and that helped because we got through the group stage. We got through the qualifying stages, as Andrew said there. We won our 4 games, and then we moved into the group stages, and for the first time, we made an impression. In terms of the teams that we were playing against, we won away from home for the first time. So I think Lennon was, although he was fortunate not to have Rangers in the loop, I think he was clever enough to focus on the European games at the expense of the league games, because I'm sure we'll talk about it. Some of the league games were awful.
Yeah, well, we'll go, because we qualified for the group stages of the Champions League with those, as Andrew pointed out, winning all the games miraculously, and then we get into the league where actually we lost 7 games this season in the league, and the start of the season's not that great, so I'm going to do a bit of the start until the Champions League group stages roughly kicks off, or at least the most memorable part of it,